Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Jesse.
How are you?
I've been crying. I'm good.
Yeah. Why are you
Yeah,
crying?
because I realizations uh, make me cry. When I experience truth, I cry. It's one of those things. Not always, but some things. Yeah.
What was the realization or the truth?
Um, that I put myself in a box, and yet I have a lot of brilliance. So I put myself in this box called my room, and I remove the brilliance, and I
Hmm.
punch against walls. Boom, boom, boom. It's a metaphor
Mhm.
of the mind.
Yeah. There's a lot of wall breaking in my experience of working with you. Sense of like I feel like in every piece and in a lot of the classes, there's like can you get through the wall? um, anyway.
It's true. It's so true. I remember when I was doing Form is Relentless, I got so frustrated and I thought, what? How much space would there be if we removed all the walls?
Yeah.
In the studio, in the idea, in the room. Um, and otherwise, I mean, space has incredible transmission quality with it. And according to, I would say, our level of awareness or our layered levels of awareness, we experience space in many different ways, but the body has a transparency to it
Mm.
too. And that's something I see, or I may see, and I would call that brilliance. It's an aspect of brilliance. Yeah. I love your smile.
I'm just like yeah, wanting to see through the walls. I didn't know how to start this. um but I was thinking of the first time I met you, which was in Utah, and I forget the year, but it was a couple of years ago. It was years ago, 5 years ago,
2015.
2015.
June. I
And
was on crutches.
you were on crutches, and you were working with Anya Cloud, and we were teaching at a workshop in Utah at the Salt Dance Fest, and she had been teaching in your place for a couple of days, and then you came, and you did, like, the first day you were there, I think you did this demonstration with Anya,
Yeah.
kind of sharing, and it was like, I mean, that's it's related to what you just said, because it was like her body and your body were like entirely transparent. It was just like it was just energy running through, and you were like you were like touching her and talking and like extracting but also embedding, like all this stuff was happening, and it was just this like field of energy that was like without boundary, like without border. And at the same time, it was like, oh, they know each other so well. Like they, and so there's so your body's like materialized really richly. Like it was so detailed as a physical, like material experience. So it's kind of like this. It was kind of like boundaryless, like without edge, without end, and simultaneously like really anchored, like really real to me. And it was so I'm thinking about that, like in relationship to like the things that are here that also aren't here, like how your work kind of always does that. It's sort of, for me, always super concrete and absolutely absolutely without edge, like absolutely without end, without limit. um anyway, so that was the first time I met you, and I was like, who is this? How is it that I have never met this person before, this like remarkable, like, sort of agent of transmission? So I was determined to know you.
You did a good job. to go back though, what you saw was what I created as, I call it, implied direction. And I'm glad that you were able to see that. It brings up the question, how many people in that room saw that, saw what you saw? Very interesting inquiry. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, but I think like for me, when like for me it was like, oh, it was how to say it, like the world is limitless and also tangible. That was,
Yes, 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 yes.
I'd been trying to figure that out I think in my own way for a long time. Like,
Uh,
or,
I
or,
remember,
or something about the limitlessness and tangibility of the world was revealed as like, oh, there are other horizons to this, like there are other horizons to that you have that I just was, yeah, became so curious about.
I got so excited that you were interested. Do you remember in the dressing room? I was kind of limping around
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to dance with you. I
yeah,
just had a, what is it called, a PRP injection that really didn't work, and I was quite violently ill.
yeah,
But it's like the call to arms, and I'm there. You say, I'm interested, and I
yeah.
am your vehicle. I'm just, uh, that's my job. Yeah.
We're lucky we found each other. I was thinking, Sarah, that because who knows who's going to watch this, and they might not know you. Um, so, so who are you?
My name is Sarah. I landed on the planet. I railed against God, but I didn't. I'm still here. And I had a long journey. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, and grew up one family working farm. I was passed around, then I was adopted around, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, and that's when I started railing at God. Because as kids, we can read minds. We know what people are thinking and know what people were saying, and it was a real. So I spent my time with the animals and plants and trees, and I had no trust for human beings at all. And so when I went to school, it was a big shock because humans had already created these cliques and belief systems and way to organize and talk to each other, and I found it very cruel. And so I developed a kind of a shield uh, around me, but it also created kind of an isolation. And so I ended up meeting an incredible mentor, Francesca Boas, uh, in Rome, Georgia. My uncle took over my guardianship and put me in a small fine art school there. And she pretty much gave me my directions for my career. And she said, if you want to deal with the politics, and I went to study with Jose Limon and Louis Horace and Martha Graham, go to New York City and become a complete professional. I said I did, and absolutely I did not. But I toured with Alan Nicolai, and then I wanted to dance more, so I worked with Murray, and then I went to Canada to see who was making the art, me or New York City. And I did all kinds of wonderful, crazy, crazy projects. And I was so extremely cold and so lonely. And then I met Mangrove and moved to San Francisco in 1979 and built this mega, incredible, brilliant group named Contraband. I didn't build it alone. We built it together. So that crashed and burned. I'm not that great at business. And so I decided I wanted to be a healer, that the art world was filled with ego and competition, and I wasn't up for it. And so I found the same thing in the healing world. People are people. And so mostly what I've been doing in the last 20, 30 years is trying to heal myself and also understand what is going on in this planet, and how to make a change in the room, and how to have a good time, how to be with people, have a good time, and also be of service at some level to the divine. And so that has been my quest and my passion and my joy and my love. And I miss dancing. I loved contact. It broke me to pieces. Or I allowed that because one of the things that is, I can leave the body very easily, and there are many reasons for that. And so I would find myself thrown against a wall or over somebody's shoulder and land far away, and have many just really bizarre, strange, extraordinary, and heartrending experiences performing. At one point, I said, I'll never get on stage again. And I think it was somebody named Jesse Zaritt who actually got me back on stage. Talking mostly, of course, but I get to throw a few coats around.
I'm thinking about two things. One is about trust, because I think that, like, I think, you know, with knowing your story somewhat of growing up, and like just the way that you had to learn to trust the animals and the earth, and sort of be really suspicious of human beings. It's amazing to me that so much of your teaching and so much of your work is built on a kind of radical trust, and this like and especially I'm thinking about it now in this time, this like, and really on touch, and on touch that feels very different from like contact improvisation, like touch where you're actually like, it's not just I trust you to hold my weight, or I trust you to listen to like the force is moving through me. It's like I trust you to remove the entities that are blocking me from, you know, from my own joy, or from my own love, or from, you know, like there's something really intimate about how you teach. So that's one. Maybe that's enough for now. Maybe, like, how to talk about trust inside teaching.
I make a lot of mistakes, and sometimes my touch is a little too, both verbally and energetically, and even physically, is sometimes too much for people. So I'm still learning how to be softer, because I have to push a lot to stay on the planet, and to find to make space for me on the planet. So that became one of my themes. And actually through contact, I learned that I didn't know how to say no. And so it taught me how to push, how to say no, how to have more physical strength, but I had to learn that the hard way. So equanimity, balance. So it's a continual practice for me of softening and being clear, and learning how to say no without a sledgehammer in my mind. Trust, and really to relax and let the content appear, as opposed to trying so hard and doing too much. That's kind of philosophical, but that's part of my process. I'm still learning to relax, because I was in shock, survival, born in shock, born in survival, fight or flight. And so that's a long-term trauma, and it's kind of, we're kind of in a suspended fight or flight mode right now.
There's something about, I guess I'm thinking about, I mean, I only have my experience of being your student, a collaborator, but there's something about, like, I guess there's like the force of Sara, which is like powerful, but there's also like, meaning like and I, you know, like the quality of your touch, which is really profound. But then there's also like something sort of fundamental, I think, where you just look at the people in the room and there's some part of you that says, you can all do this. And in a way, like you can all do this. And I like, it's kind of like a trust in a sort of innate capacity to meet the challenge of what you're asking, because the way you work is through like through a really, you know, really I'm having to like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like this like you know, crazy level of like of energetic sensitivity, you know, that like, and it's transformational, you know, it's like it's mining possibility. And so I guess I'm curious about that. Like there's a kind of like how you see feels to me like it actually has a lot of trust in it, like how you see other people. um,
Well, yes, that's an assumption that everyone can do it. And what I do is I actually see blocks and blockages, and um, yeah, and so I do everything I can think of to remove those so that the person has more trust in themselves, because I have a toolbox. There's no right way. Uh, but I can see when someone has taken the information and had enough self-inquiry to process it through their own experience, rather than trying to make a match or a state or a technique um, to solve the problem in the room and then carry that forward and then paste it on top of themselves and present it. That absolutely does not work. Um, and I mean, there's such incredible joy when I see somebody's um, body. It's their spirit dancing in the body, or the systems start to organize and play and talk with each other. It's mercurial. I mean, it's just there's nothing like it. There is just nothing like seeing spirit dancing in the body because I don't know how to explain it except that um, there's something that's present that is beyond the personality and the mind, and you can feel it and you can see it, and it creates tremendous laughter and joy. Um, I mean, that's why you love dancing, yeah?
yeah.
Yeah, that's why I did love dancing. And so for me to see someone uh, see the body shift and change, and the nervous system reroute itself, and the blood flow, and the light move through the body, and curl around the body and lift the body, and it's pure joy. It's just absolute pure joy. Yeah, I know that those are a bunch of woo-woo words, aren't they?
No, they're not. They're not. I mean, I think that, I don't know. You know this. We know this. We know this.
Yeah.
I mean, like that joy is the hardest thing, actually. Don't you think?
Yeah, somehow we got this idea that it was not okay. I
You know,
mean, as kids, we have it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was, who was I talking to? I don't remember, but this sort of, in America, there's an obsession with being happy, and like, I want to be happy. I'm looking for happiness. And as if like, because happiness sort of presents itself as a state that you can be in for a long time, but in a way, but joy is only ever temporary, like, you know
Yeah, it's true.
and so
It's true.
it takes a lot of work to get there, and it's sort of rare and beautiful to find joy, and maybe and difficult. So
Well, do the bees, when they bite that flower because they want to suck out the juice, are they feeling joy? Or they're just doing their job and they, or the hummingbird, isn't it joyous to, or to smell a flower or to see the light arise again and that you're awake and you get another day?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not in joy when I see the fog. And there's a lot of fog here, but it's out there somewhere. So the sun gives me great joy.
Yeah.
Warmth gives me great joy.
Yeah. I want to talk about the tools, like the toolbox, the Sara pedagogy, the Sara Shelton Mann things.
Yeah, they're things.
Or I'm curious, like how you would. I guess what's interesting to me about this like little situation, this kind of conversation we're having, is imagining people who don't know you or who haven't encountered your work, and what are these tools, where did they come from, like how did you develop them?
Curiosity. I wanted to dance. I wanted to be a brilliant dancer. And so I worked with Nikolai, but I also worked with Cunningham and Hawkins. And I used to stand in the front of the mirror and train for hours and hours. But I was always thinking of choreography, because I remember Nikolai used to say to dance is something or other, but to choreograph is sublime. So I started training to choreograph immediately, and it's the same thing. We learn different parts, but then we have to put it together as a whole. So my toolbox is basically a series of puzzles. And I worked with Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen at that time, but then I worked with a brilliant guy named Hamid Ali. So I learned systems of the body, both through the mind and through, through States work and through the mind and through Bonnie's training. And I didn't do a whole lot of Bonnie's training, but it touched me so profoundly. It was in Northampton way back, I think in the 70s. And so that became my language. So I trained myself to use the language of the systems of the body. And then I fell in love with contact. And so then I began to apply everything I'd learned to contact and to bring in the tools, time, shape, space, and motion from Nikolai. So then, but I was always interested in energy because people would say that they could see light coming out of my arms going through space, or my legs. And I would do run, run, leap, and I wouldn't come down. And then I would crash. It's the same thing with making choreography. So I have this way of splitting and going through veils and coming back and having no understanding. And that's caused a lot of problems. So I began to, I could see what I could see. So first of all, knowing what I know now, teaching what I would call basics is really different and also sublime. There are a lot of people who teach somatics work and contact through all these different formulas, through Feldenkrais, through this, through whatever. It's all incredible. But I became very just possessed with continuing to study what I call energy. I don't know, before things come into the physical body. So anyway, I would watch people and I would see that they were not in their body, or that they would be half in their body, half in their partner's body, or the space wouldn't move. This is very difficult to explain,
You're doing really well.
So I developed this thing called solo neutral follow for people to practice being completely in their body and moving, knowing that, and not aiming to not respond to other people's input. And then paradox to vacate and respond from a primal place, not a picture or a state or a learned technique, to respond to information, which means you have to learn choice. You have to know choice. You have to know what choice is, because it's completely overwhelming. And absolutely just being neutral. What is it to just be in your body on the planet with no judgment, no agenda, and just have the presence of you. So that's one of the toolboxes that I have, and I think it's fantastic. I think everybody should do it. I mean, it's like my basic thing. So then in teaching, I found myself like looking out the window, because I was teaching the yoga studio on Divisadero, and then I thought, I wonder what people write like. And so I came up with this weird little thing, and I made it up in class on the spot, 10 ways to do something. And so you've got past and future, childhood, imagery, present time coming through you in all directions. So, but anyway, you write this little thing. It's a practical thing. So you're combining metaphoric, magical, nonlinear, and practicality. And you have to make it really fun for you. And so you have a director, and they read your directions to you. 10 ways to do blah, blah, blah. So I just made it up. And I found the interdisciplinary aspect of it. You can work with props, you can sing, you can scream, you can do text, you can have images, you can dance, and it disappears. It comes in, it reveals itself, and it disappears. And so then you condense until you have a score. And it can be a gorgeous text. And then anyway, from looking out the window, I would just have dancers like face the window and just visualize an entity somewhere and create a scenario and then come back and share. So I started to really touch the imagination muscles.
Yeah.
Because I felt that dancers dance like they write. That's what I found out.
Oh.
So then I went, oh dear, not blue, cloud, maybe happy, etc. So then I developed this thing where I'm the director, and you have to have something to work with in order for this to work. So I would often use shift, like on a cliff, balance, ledges, and coming to neutral, and then I would direct. So you're in partners. A would dance and B would write. And so I would direct the writers, and I would create these questions, and they just had to answer them without thinking. Continually writing, continually looking at movement, looking through the movement, looking at the rhythm, looking at the nuance, looking at the eye focus, looking at the skin tone, looking at the rhythm of the whole body, the footwork, and going deeper and deeper and deeper into different worlds and creating scenario. So in that way, it makes a match with whatever information you put in the space in rehearsal. It's there for you. You can go on.
Yeah.
You're never starting from just, I mean, even if you tear off that page and start another drawing, you have the history of, well, this series is about this, or it's continual process.
There's something about all of these like implied direction, solo neutral follow, 10 ways. There's something that it's like they're tools that they like make imagination tangible, but not in a kind of like not in sort of like, not like in a like make believe, and like you make the thing and then you kind of look at it, but in this way of like the elasticity of the malleability of imagination. It's like, or like that the materiality of the world kind of can keep like it's unfixed, it keeps changing, and the more you can kind of be in this like in this mind that moves. I don't know how else to say it.
Because it's fun.
Mind that like can throw. Yeah, that there's like it really, it's tangible, and it's elastic, and it's also really rigorous. I think that's the thing that for me, working with you, there's like a physical rigor. It's like the hardest dance training I've ever done is your work, and it's also the most imaginative. It's the most fictive and the most spiritual, and also the most like concrete. Like, it's so funny to me in a way. I don't know that we've ever talked about this, but it's funny to me like how like this sort of like paradox of like it's just real. It's like you're sweating, there's labor. If you don't understand how something connects in your body, you better figure it out because you need it. At the same time that things are not fixed, and your body is not like, do it this way, better look good. It's not inside that thinking at all. So there's something, it's liberatory and expansive. Anyway, I'm getting like
Thank you. That's a very good description. It's kind of crazy.
yeah, and it's intersectional in the way that you're using language, you're using every scrap of physical information that you have. You're using fantasy, like any, like, you know, I don't know. I experience like working with you. I experience a kind of like I was, you know, moments where I'm like, I don't understand what Sara is saying. Like I don't understand this, but I believe it, but something is like, there's some kind of override of like of the need to sort of logically and rationally be able to sort of go, oh, Jesse, she means da 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 da. Okay, and like it's inside that moment of like, this is beyond my comprehension. That like something wakes up, you know, and goes, oh, okay. Like, let me take over. Like, rational self, take a break. And let me like let the kind of innate wisdom that's sort of like that you kind of spill into the room, like let that generate some possibility.
Yeah. That's joy. That's happiness. And it is. Spirit is very technical. I am very, very technical.
Yeah.
All of this talk has a perfection in terms of expression, language, technicality, execution to it. You know, yeah, for sure. You know, I was thinking that, you know, I keep banking up against this manual. I need a manual. I want a manual. And it's like, and then I read all the stuff that I wrote, and I went, this is a mess. I know. So I tried to start rewriting, and then it was just a couple of days ago, this little voice said, video. Why haven't you videoed your classes, dear? That has transmission. Keep pushing up against words, and yes, words do need to be made, but there's no way that I can actually explain in words what is going on.
Yeah.
So I went, bing. I'm up against the wall.
Yeah, there is like yeah, because the words that, you know, when you I think about your writing, like your poetry, and how it sort of does what your, it does what your practices do. In a way, it sort of undoes language. But at the same, I mean, it's a poetry, so it undoes language, but it also like it anchors you to kind of the grit of being alive. It's like um, um, here I have something you wrote.
Okay. I'm passing around the last thing that I wrote that you asked if you could say in the last thing, and that it's like I love writing with you now. Your writing is now in the work with me, and that is such a great pleasure for me to um, be able to just trust and let go and be me. Thank you.
Can I read this to you, Sarah?
What is it? Yes.
I think you'll recognize it.
Okay.
At the moment, I imagine the sound comes through the house. The house is upside down. The people are ancient children, writing the world as it should be. For as it is now, singing moves the feet, and wind claims the heart. Silence is the forgotten metaphor for answers. Wait is the space between worlds. I forgot to love you enough, and I listen to the voices.
Polka.
I wanted to read this. I love this that thing that you wrote, and I guess for me, it's like it's this the way you use language. It's like there's image, there's feeling, there's movement, and then there's like a way in which it, kind of like your teaching, it just sort of moves something more than itself. So this, I was thinking about language like it's so violent, like what you're experiencing up against the wall, trying to write the practice, trying to be like, here's a manual so that, but it's so violent, it just sort of reduces, it's so reductive. And then like something like this feels like, it's the opposite. Like language has no more weight. No, you know what I mean? It's like it has a sort of like weightlessness. Anyway, thinking about.
No, yeah, I am like pushing up against, because I see other people have trainings, have manuals, have all these things, and I want to share,
Yeah.
what I know and pass on what I know. That's up to you. But back to the writing, that the thing is, you picked that out of all the writing. Otherwise, it never would have gotten in the piece that we did. Your text, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how inspiration and intuition actually works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, I'm stuck on this writing. It like, I guess I just use the word weightless, but it feels, but that's wrong. It's light, there's lightness. And it's like there's lightness to the way language holds meaning, And so it's so specific. It's so like, the words are so like necessary, that their details, their relationship to each other, but there's something light about how it all kind of spills out. And I'm thinking about that in relationship to all of your teaching practices, and kind of the rigor and the lightness, and it makes me think about it makes me think about astonishment. And there's something about you in the room as a teacher, which is a dancer, which is a choreographer, which is a poet, which is like you're all of those things all the time. But there's something about like the possibility for astonishment that feels constant.
That's true. No, it's really, really, it's really true.
Yeah.
Because I've trained myself to know that when I'm thinking about something else, cut, edit, that whatever that is not in the room, that I haven't tended to the work at the moment.
Mm.
And that work is for me to be completely in awe, curious, ask the right questions, let go, forget it, and then somehow see the secrets in you. Because I remember the first time it was in Salt Lake that I saw you perform, and I was going, oh, who is that? You know, it's like your face was covered in this energy and this like the body and it's like this armor, and then later on an armor of roses. How incredible! What incredible paradox and imagery and power and realization and old soulness that is. And it was slightly frightening. And yet to not engage, that's impossible. Do you hear me?
I hear you.
To not say, who is that? What again? Can we have a conversation? It's completely impossible. And that is kind of the magic of artistry and collaboration and chemistry. And because what does they say when two or more gather, that the divine is in the room, and if there is no laughter there, the divine has left.
It's just amazing, like to be or I guess like something I feel like I learned from you is how to say it. I don't know how to say it. It's like I don't know the language, but it is to be in awe, you know. It's to kind of be, and maybe it has to do with being afraid in some way, like a kind of fear of approaching the thing that is more than you, that is like that like, you know, like you're teaching a class, and it's the risk of like I don't know, I always feel like, Sarah, there's something you've never tried before, and you might have these practices, these tools like solo neutral follow, 10 ways, but there's something, every time you do it, there's something in it that you've never approached before. And then there's that person that you've never approached before. And then there's the circumstance that you've never approached before. So I don't know if like the divine is always the laughter or always the joy. It's maybe also that like that willingness to confront the unknown and like the space between. And the feeling that it's not, I don't know, I don't know, it's not worth comparing to other you know, ways that people do things, but it's sort of like, it feels like it would be impossible to make a manual of something that has no end.
I agree. And that brings me to tell you the truth, and you know this, that I am terrified before I teach.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And then once I go into it, it's a river that I dive into. and time stops, it lengthens out, or it compresses when I am able to let go and be in that flow. And it's scary.
Yeah.
Even just doing the chi in the morning, it's like, I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
You know, this is just a moment in a practice that's going somewhere with people. And it's like, well, there are no people around here. There's just me and people out here. And something happens, but there's fear. I have never, it's always different. It's always the unknown. And it always comes together in different ways, and it always teaches me, otherwise I wouldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. What do you think? This is a really hard question, but you know, I get these conversations are about like legacy, lineage. I forget the terminology, all of it, but I think those two words kind of circle this prompt from Lion's Jaw. But like, what do you? I don't know. Something about transmission. Maybe that's a better word. Like, what is the vision? How do you vision transmission? The transmission of your work.
Well, a lot of people have it. A lot of people have many different aspects of it. Some people have a few moments of it, and then it informs how they think, and so I disappear. Um, you have actually tracked a way in which you are in the transmission with me. And so you write the manual? Get the school to write the manual? I need a PhD somewhere. Somebody who's really smart.
We would both have to get a PhD. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole world, because there's so many aspects. There's really so many aspects to it. And the thing is that you are truly an interdisciplinary artist. So you bring so many of the things that I love so much. Who is that? Oh, I can't do that now. I told her she could. It's like the visual field that I absolutely love, and your ability to just completely destroy it and reconstruct it, and then draw those edges, and to allow space to shift so that the edges of the design or the line of the body or a drawing become intermixed. Like the way you came in and taught drawing to dancers. I saw people that I trained dance like I had never seen them before. I was so happy. So you're my downline. Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want people to know you and know about you and know what you do and how you've done what you've done. That's really important to me.
It's important to me too. It's like I think about Berlin, and you're coming to Berlin, and how many people I have met in Berlin, and you've met so many of the people that I have met, and that's how I've gotten around the world. So I owe Doc Elf and Eden a great gratitude and appreciation, because I have met so many beautiful dancers and beings in Berlin, and that room is so large.
Yeah.
And so many people come to Berlin in the summer.
How many?
But,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like how many. I mean, there are so many generations of people that have worked with you.
That's true.
Yeah.
I used to make spectacle. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, big, big spectacle. Yeah.
Do you think you will again?
No. I don't know. Somebody has to give me a lot of money. um,
It's so crazy that like the kind of, I don't know, there's always talk about the ephemerality of dance, and but I guess I'm thinking about this sort of monumental labor of a life in dance. Like it's monumental. Like your like what you've built over time. Like if there were an edifice, if there were like an architecture of Sara Shelton Mann's collected works, it would be like a palace like no one had ever seen. You know what I mean? Like just with all the different gestures and the like scaffolding and this person and that person and like like, so it's something about like how to but how you carry that, like you carry the palace of your career, with you, but it's like how to sort of make that visible. I don't know, it's such a puzzle, because even for me, like coming into your life in 2015, there's like decades, like huge, spectacular, like it's I don't know, it's so funny. It's like you can't, like we have video and we have like photographs and beautiful documents, but it's like that, I don't know, I'm thinking about it in some way, like trying to think about this sort of, and then you just said like I disappear, like in the envisioning your own transmission, you disappear, which is so beautiful. Like it's so, I feel that way about how I want to be as a teacher. Like I would like to disappear. Like, and then the thing that carries someone forward is whatever alchemy is that, uh,
it's so true, because you can see your transmission, and you can see it, but it dissolves in the person. They're not dancing you; they're
yeah,
dancing them, and you become a part of assisting their freedom.
yeah,
That's the right word, freedom. Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
no, I was just thinking of like this metaphor. Is it a metaphor? I don't know. This metaphor of like the architecture of your work. It's like a series of gates, that just people pass through, and it's just like a series of portals.
Yeah, interim space,
Right.
interim.
Rather than a palace, it's just like an endless series of like beautiful gates. That's nice.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you for being in my life and being my collaborator.
Thank you for being my teacher.